Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The sickest book I've ever seen so far. Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode on this channel. Today we will talk about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So how will we get started? What is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire about? Well, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is mostly about the Goblet of Fire itself, but what is the Goblet of Fire? Well, if you ever knew about the Goblet of Fire, it is the cup that Harry has been put into the tournament. Harry was put into the tournament, the Triwizard Tournament. The Triwizard Tournament, where there were 3 schools, Buxton and some other school, like Crumb's school, where Victor Crumb was in, and Hogwarts itself, where they would compete. It was allowed, and it was supposed to be pretty fun, and showing 3 tests to show bravery and courage. But then eventually, the death toll became too far, in fact, that they had to discard it. All of it. They had to discard all of it. And eventually, the discarding was pretty much a bad thing to do, in my opinion. The death toll was a good example of why we had to discard it. But also, I think that it's a better idea that we should have had, I don't know, a better book? A better storyline? I mean, the Triwizard Tournament getting cut off for like a few centuries now are actually just Cotswold to me, if you ask me. So then, how does it work? Well, it works like this. The Triwizard Tournament has been reinstalled this year at Harry's 4th year. There were still normal classes, but however, they were still pretty much the same year, except that there was a Triwizard Tournament. The problem was that the Buxton, then this Buxton girl who's part of Vila, and also Victor Crumb, the Quidditch match, the Quidditch World Cup hero, and Cedric Diggory from Hogwarts, Hufflepuff, have been put into the tournament, and everybody thought that that was the end, that these were the competitors. But then somebody put Harry's name in the cup, and he became in the cup itself, which meant that he was the 4th Triwizard champion. And because of this, I don't think it's supposed to be called the Triwizard champion anymore. I think it's supposed to be called the Quadrizard champion. Yeah, that makes more sense because there are 4 champions. So there were 3 tasks. One was about dragons, and he had to go all the way and got a Hungarian hortail. He had to grab an egg, and boom, he will be off, and he'll be good. The dragon egg was gold, so that it will resemble like a golden dragon egg, where it will show us the next clue, the clue for the next ever, next ever clue for the tournament. The next task. Oh, and this is the Goblet of Fire, choosing the names. And that piece of paper you just saw was Harry Potter's. This are the dragons, and that is color green. And here, I don't know what this dragon is because I've never seen it. And this is a Chinese fireball. And then here was the first task. Harry was the last one to actually do it. And here is the golden egg where he had to retrieve it. He had a lot of these things. And as Paint, these people from Paint talked about in their Harry Potter in the 1992 song, they said the dragons and mermaids. I hope this was not copyrighted. But yeah, anyways, he had to fly. He got his broom and then got all the way and flew right past the dragon and got the egg. And this was what it looked like. Fire ablaze. Wow. Eventually, I don't know who that is. Eventually there was a ball, and then the champion started the ball, which started it. I don't know where the second task is, but I hope it's somewhere here. To be honest, then Harry's second task was to retrieve a friend. His friend, where he would use his gillyweed that made him like breathe underwater, to be able to save Ron and try to save Hermione, but then realized that they wouldn't let him, and then somebody came, grabbed Hermione, and went up. And so Harry grabbed two, one Ron and one I don't know who, because there was time running out. And so he went all the way up. I don't know who the fourth one is, but yeah. And then the third task was pretty difficult here. In his third task, he was out of his mind. They had to go through a maze, and then they found a Triwizard Cup. Right? Yeah, here it is, Triwizard Cup. What they didn't know was that once they grabbed it, it was a portkey. A portkey, where a portkey is a magical object that would transport anybody into anywhere they wanted, whenever they want. And when someone touches it, and they found themselves in a graveyard, Voldemort came back with Harry's blood. And he was his true self again, with his red pieces of red eyes, which were pretty scary if you ask me. And then the Death Eaters came back and became you-know-who's supporters again. But then a weird thing happened. Harry and Voldemort's wands are both the same, if you ever knew. They were brothers. But then sometimes when two brother wands, or sister wands, depending on which one, are forced to duel each other, they will do a readings, where the spells would meet, where one of the wands would make the other one's spell reject it, reverse it. And then it would be reversed. That's why there was a bind of yellow light. That's why Lord Voldemort had to keep his wand here, and Harry was able to defeat it. He was able to link his wand with Harry's wand. Link his wand with Voldemort's wand. Here to here. The Death Eaters were told to do nothing. And then from Voldemort's and Harry's wand came the victims of Voldemort. The very last ones were his parents. And Harry was able to fight it with the courage that Dumbledore would never have seen. And they found that Bad Guy Moony was not Moony after all. And he just drank Polyjuice Potion. And that's how he was changing back. Then at the end of the term year, since there was no Defense Against the Dark Arts lessons anymore, they had them free. And then if you ever read the books, you would have remembered Rita Skeeter. Who was the reporter for the Daily Prophet. I believe she was here somewhere. Could be here somewhere, you Rita Skeeter. Oh, here she is. But it turns out that she was an unorthodox and illegal animagus, and that she can turn into a beetle. Let me get this focused a bit more. Look at those little eyes that she has at the end of her antennae. That looks a bit like her glasses that she wore. And that was how she could eavesdrop on anything. And she made her promise that she would keep her quill to herself and that she would be released in London, the Muggle London. Then what happens is that she will not write any bad stuff about any people and tell lies. And then that was how the term ended, as a happy term ended. That was how Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire seemed to have an effect on us. The Goblet of Fire hasn't been used for a century, or centuries actually, and that is why we actually have it right over here. There's a lot of things that we don't actually have, in the Harry Potter world that some things are just too complicated to understand whenever we have this Harry Potter reading. This is how Harry Potter might have been pretty much a great way about something. We might even figure out that even the Harry Potter series might be pretty good about this. Harry Potter was one of the greatest bestseller novels of all time. But Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was probably the first novel in the Harry Potter series that is pretty long and also had one of the greatest storylines of all. With all this magic of Harry Potter, I think we can learn something here. Courage. But in the form of unknown stuff. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode on Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click in the comments below which Harry Potter cover do you prefer the most, the Scholastic version or the Jim K illustration version. Please tell me in the comments below. You decide who will win. See you. Shinhan out. Peace.